So it's been 2 years or 2 years. Yeah, I recorded the first video in 2022 about what it was like to get ready to turn 40 because I was 39 when I recorded that video. And now I've made it across the 40 threshold. I am 42 years old. It is 2024. And a lot has changed. So I remember we talked about so many things in that first video that because at 39, it really felt like my life was crumbling around me. And it was like, it really was like, make no mistake about it. Life was definitely lifing. And all of my concerns that I had, like I had to watch the video back and realize that all my concerns were very, very valid because I was going through some very real things internally, externally, from a parenting perspective, from a relationship perspective, from an emotional perspective. And so what is life like after 40? What actually happened? How did all the things go down? And so what I will tell you first and foremost is do not hold on to anything, because everything you are trying to hold on to, if there's anything that is happening right now that you were trying to hold on to, you need to just let it go, let it transform, let it do its thing. Because I feel like since 39, that's definitely what's happening to me. Like I've transformed, not necessarily into a different person, but really into a more accepting person, just more accepting of who I am as a person. And more accepting of my surroundings and what they are, and not trying to force them to be something that they're not. And everything in my life came to like a head. Like either something from outside came in and propelled it to come to a head, or internally I just could not hold the thing, whatever the thing was, together anymore. And I needed to exert myself in some type of powerful way in order to make a change. And so one of the things I learned was that there is actually an astrological significance around your midlife crisis. And I'm going to talk about that in another video, but it starts most of the time with Pluto squaring itself. And then all the other planets do the same thing. And so I'm going to break that down in another video. But in this video, I just kind of wanted to come in and tell y'all about all the things that changed once I turned 40, between 40 and 42. And actually the midlife crisis does not end, I figured out, until 44. So I'm still in the thick of it, to be honest with you. I think I'm in a much calmer space now because I realized that this is just like par for the course, because when the shit hit the fan for me, it hit the fan for everybody I knew. Like I would be talking to my girlfriends and would have the courage to speak up about something I was going through. And then they would all be like, yup, I'm in the same space. I'm in the same space with my coochie. I'm in the same place with my husband. I'm in the same place with my career. I'm in the same place with my kids. And I was like, oh, so we all are collectively going through this. So I would say, go find your 40 crew, because you're going to need them. And for real, my 40 crew, we are stronger together since we've all kind of gone through this together, and we've texted back and forth, and we've met up and powwowed around the drama, the trauma of turning 40. So I would say find your 40 crew and keep them close, because like them are probably going to be your people forever. Probably the most devastating thing that happened to me during this 40 transition was my dad passed away. And astrologically I didn't predict it, but my numerologist and my astrologist both told me that was going to happen. And yeah, that's something I'm still dealing with. It actually just happened. We are 6 months away from my father's passing. But it's actually pretty commonplace for people to lose a parent during that 40 transition, or to lose somebody close to them, because it is an outside factor that stimulates you to internally consider a lot of things. And it definitely did that for me. Career-wise, like my career, to be honest, I self-sabotaged my career in a lot of ways because I was not able to deal with all the things that were going on around me. And so I just felt like I want to do less of this so that I can focus more on other things. And that's what I did. And I'm still coming back from that. But career-wise, what I realized was that it just wasn't as important as it was during my 30s. I think during my 30s, I was trying to accomplish something, trying to be something. And now that I'm over the threshold of 40, I realized that career is just one part of it. For me, it's now life is more about who I'm becoming than it is about what I'm doing. So career entrepreneurship for me now has to be an extension of who I am and who I'm becoming. And if it's not that, to be honest, I don't want it. Like, I was fortunate enough that in my 30s, my career really took off and I was able to experience a lot of success, whether that's from the perspective of just like, status and your title, but also financially, I was able to experience a lot of success and just realize that it just wasn't as important as my relationships. It wasn't as important as who I want to become. It's not as important as, where I want to live. I live in a different city now. Well, most of the time, I'm still traveling back and forth to my home city more often than most people probably do, but I live in a different city now. And that even in and of itself was like such a huge part of me tearing away from who I used to be. And really deciding for myself that I needed something new. And thank God for my partner, because he like kind of spearheaded the move, because I don't think I had it. I couldn't have done it by myself. I didn't have the courage to say that that was what I needed. And still some days I feel like, why am I here? This is not where I experience success at. Like, this means I have to build something new. But that, I think, is what the 40s is about in a lot of different ways. It's really about, transforming and becoming something new. It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. And that was what one of my colleagues had told me when I asked her about turning 40 around that 37, 38, 39, when I was starting to feel like, something ain't right. I don't know what it is, but something ain't right. And she told me that. She was like, my 40s was like a phoenix rising from the ashes type experience. And now I completely know what she means, because it's like everything gets torn down and then you have to like slowly but surely pick it up. But you literally are building from the ashes. And that's even in things that you think are really solid in your life. Like, you have these areas where you're like, this is so solid, only to recognize and discover that the solidness that you think you're experiencing may be built on something that is not stable, that is not a stable foundation. And remember, 40s is the number 4, and 4 is all about foundation. You would think we would turn 40 when we were teenagers so we could build a better foundation, but no, this is the way God intended it, is that we turn 40 and we have to build a new foundation, recognizing that our old foundation was heavily built on a childlike mindset. And so there's just so many y'all, I've just had so many moments of enlightenment, so many moments of just like, is this real? No, that ain't real. Like, you need to remove that. Is not real. Moments. And then, the down below does not change. You're still gonna be horny all the time. Like, I don't know. I understand now where people be like, oh, in your 40s, you're horny all the time. Girl, it just doesn't stop. Like, it just doesn't. I wish I could give you some hope on that. It just doesn't. But the period does calm down. Like, you get used to being in a new rhythm with it. Like I told y'all in the last video, before I started going through this 40 transition, I did not have any issues with my period, like, ever. Barely cramps, barely nothing. Now I have cramps occasionally, not all the time, like when it first started. And sometimes my period lasts a little bit longer than it usually does. But it's calmed down. But I had to like start working out all the time. I'm still not good at eating, but I'm like actually right now in the process of getting better, because like my body is definitely showing me like we are not youthful anymore. You have to work out, because if you don't, you're going to be tired and you're going to be fat. And no offense if you're fat. If you're fat and you love it, like I love it for you, but she is a little girl. I know I look tall because people always tell me you look tall on camera, but I am a little person. So when I gain weight, it's immediately available because I'm little. And so it mellows out, but you do like at 40, you got to start taking care of this body, because this body is not dipping and doing it like back in the day. Like she's just not. She's tired. She needs a nap. I was not a sleeper before this 40 transition. Girl, I nap If I'm waiting in the car too long for my kids to pick them up, I will go to sleep. They will have to call me and be like, Mom, we're here. I'm like, oh shit, I was taking a nap. So I'm telling you, you have to take care of this body. You have to listen to your body. And that's one of the things that I feel like in my 40s, I'm getting so much better at. Intuition wise, y'all. Intuition wise, like I'm just getting so much better at like feeling it in my body, not denying the feeling and being like, nope, you felt that. It is what it is. Like your intuition get improved so much from having to go through that transformation period where you really realize how much time you spent ignoring your body, ignoring your deep knowings and your deep feelings. You recognize that during this 40 transition and you start to pay attention. And that's what I did. I just started to pay more attention to, okay, I met this person and my finger tingled. What was that all about? Or I met this person and my heart feels very stuck. Why? Or, the kid did this and for some reason I got an eerie feeling about it. I'm trusting it. Like she's trusting it now because there's no reason not to. There's no reason not to trust yourself. You always want your own best interest. Even if sometimes you got to, trust it and then intellectualize it. But for the most part, you should just trust it. And that's one of the things I'm learning during this 40 transition. And it's also made me a lot more compassionate. Like compassion was something that I formerly struggled with because I'm just like, make it make sense. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. If it don't make sense, it don't make sense. But now I recognize that there is a space for compassion, even within being a logical person. Like you still have to make space for people to be flawed. You still have to make space for people to not show up because they can't show up. You still have to make space for people. And a lot of times that does not mean doing anything. That does not mean presenting anything or yourself in any way. It just means being. And so this whole process of losing my dad, of having a lot of turmoil in my relationship, like just a lot, because we both turned 40 at the same time. And so we're both trying to like build ourselves back up. And my partner lost his father before we started our 40s transition. So he was already, grieving in some ways and pulling himself out of his grief right when I was and still am and dealing with my grief. And so expect that. If you're married, expect that your relationship is going to go through some troubled times. But like my astrologist told me, this is not the time to get a divorce. Like, this is not the time. This is the time to go to therapy. This is the time to talk more. This is the time to get more intimate. This is not the time to get divorced because your emotions are so heightened because you are experiencing so much change all at once. I moved. My oldest son is now living on his own. I lost my father. My career is struggling. That when all them four things is hitting the fan, that is not the time to be like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and get me a divorce. You just adding more fuel to the fire. So if you are married and you're listening to this, just remember to take your time. Take your time, go to therapy, do the self-evaluation, do the journaling, read the books, whatever you need to do, because this ain't the time to go and file for divorce because your world is crumbling, because your world is supposed to be crumbling right now. You're supposed to be learning some lessons and doing some deep internal work. And so, yeah. I can't wait to hear what y'all say. I hope this resonated with y'all. But the most important thing I want to tell you right now in the midst of this 40 transition, because like I said, I've realized that the 40 midlife crisis, quote unquote, they said doesn't end until 44. And astrologically, that is what I see astrologically too. So I'm going to post a video about that because I've been studying numerology, tarot, and astrology for almost a decade. Like that's something I was also sleeping on because I was like, this ain't never going to make me no money. I ain't doing that. And so now I'm just starting to like, okay, I'm going to use some of this. I'm going to do some of this because it feels good. Not because it's going to make me a ton of money, but just because it feels good and I want to. And I like it and I want it and I'm going to do it. And that's that. And so catch my next video. Thank y'all for tuning in. If you didn't catch my name, because I don't think I say it, it's Muffy Mendoza, and welcome to my channel. All right. Peace, y'all.